Wake up, buyer payer people. It's a beautiful day. Go grab yourself another cup of joe and say hello to Jim and Michelle Rhoads on the Buy Here Pay Here Morning Show. Take it away, you two.
Hey, good morning, everybody.
Welcome. Happy Wednesday.
Yeah.
Welcome to a White Hat Wednesday.
Yeah. You're
I'm just still getting adjusted over
trying
here.
to get all adjusted over there.
Yeah. I don't hear myself very well, but I think it's fine.
Yeah.
How
Yeah, a lot. Election last night. Results are kind of in, so there's that. But
There was an election yesterday.
There, right? And those of you who knew that that my brother has ALS, because I've kind of shared that for those of you who have loved ones in support. He passed away on Saturday, so we will be right after our show on Friday, be heading to Idaho for the funeral and just lots and lots of love and really fun stories. And, all the social media has been ablaze with memories that are really pretty awesome. So
it's an unfair disease. It was a difficult thing to watch, Ron get sort of trapped in that and just kind of I would use the word imprisonment, but that's awful for those who haven't seen it. So obviously,
and I feel really grateful because, we had the privilege of having him here for about 6 weeks from the middle of August to towards the end of September.
Yep.
And it was really good. It was really, really good.
Yeah.
So I really am too. It was good memories. And so ALS sucks.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Amen. Okay. So a couple of quick announcements. If you are a dealer out there that's interested in our opportunity to compare and connect with V8, please reach out right away. We're actually, because of the holiday, we're turning out numbers early in the month of November. So we'd just like to hear from some folks who want to get in a group.
And pricing will be changing at the beginning of the year. So if you've been kind of kicking around the idea and waiting for a good time, this is going to be the best time to do that before the end of the year. So get in touch, and I'll post how to get in touch a little bit later.
Okay. Very good.
Today.
Other quick announcement.
Okay.
Before I just want to put the thing up for the Super Forum that starts on the 10th. So just a few more days. And so be aware that's happening in New Orleans. It's not too late to get a flight and get down there. And so that's an opportunity for dealers to sit in at tables with other dealers and bounce around hot topics and so on. So that should be a good event for Buy Here Pay Here.
Exactly.
Okay.
All right.
To the topic of the day.
The topic of the day is, we have, Jim's never been a real fan of like firm talk tracks because scripts, they have, for those that don't have the ability to be able to walk through something, that's an alternative. It's not ever been really one of the ones that you have leaned into, or it's
Well, let me explain about that. Like, I think if you're a large operation and you have a high flow of leads with ads and then I can see how you could end up in a place where scripts are going to be probably your best friend, your best solution. I tend to, and keep in mind, most of the listeners on the morning show are going to be typically smaller, typical dealers doing 15 to 30 a month or whatever. And so their method of managing leads, whether it's on the lot, on the phone, through a Facebook thread, it's going to be different, right? And so what I typically would be recommending, and you'll hear it today, is like, I like for us to hire people who we can train them, give them the big picture, and then they can bring a certain tone and attitude to all the conversations and have the ability to navigate within that. Of course, they've got certain objectives. So that's one of the big things too with us is we always have to figure out what is our business approach? What is our objective? One of our coaches, a moderator trainee that sat in with our meeting last month, talked about this idea of, you have to know what your objective is. And we've had dealers who come from a franchise background and led big BDC teams. I mean, is the goal an appointment, or is the goal of a BDC agent to get an app and then somebody else takes it from there? Like we have to be clear about what our objective is, right?
I agree.
And so now when you think about what tone should I bring? Because that's what today is about. I'm going to give you some language. And people over the years have said, wow, Jim, your phrasing is really helpful. I wish I could say it, or I wish I could get our people to say it, the way you phrase it. And I think it all boils down to, you can kind of get there by just first, I mean, not everybody's just going to be naturally diplomatic, right? I mean, but you also just kind of have to care, and you have to, if you're thinking long term, of course, you're working to win the customer today, and you're going to do everything you reasonably can to make sure that if the customer doesn't buy today, it's not because we quit trying.
Well, and you said, and I think you said, or at least I heard, care.
Yeah.
And I've observed there are those that genuinely care about their customer. And then there are those that care about a sale
and commission.
Commission. And yes, there can be a marriage of both, but I see frequently, well, actually, no, yes, you want, you want to be able to create more contracts. That's business grow. But I observe sometimes when I am looking through social media and all of that there is a distinct energy of really not caring about the customer, but caring about the straight line things. It's, I
have a job to do.
I have a job to do.
My box says I'm supposed to say this.
And so, part of this is it's about bringing heart. And that's, one of the reasons, or one of the things that Jim, in all of the coaching, when we've put business, new dealers into business and coached dealers that are newer or needing to improve their processes or whatever, is one of the first things that Jim always asks is, how do you want to be known by your customer? And that is like, when you talk about your why, whatever, it's how do you want to be known? And if you want to be known as like no nonsense, get to the point, and that's great. But we also understand that our customers are they struggle with a lot of things that we have the privilege to not have to struggle with.
True.
They struggle with, I got to buy coats and I can barely afford groceries. They struggle with, I don't have the first idea how to fix a car. Or all of that. The struggles that they have are frequently around money,
right?
Or resources, and we're about ready to step in with them, with a purchase that is as big as their rent in a lot of cases. I mean, it's like it's big as their rent, and so it's like livelihood, a lot of things attached to it. And so, how do we want to be known by our customers?
Yeah, so I think about it as being known by the community. How do I want to be known by the community, even those people who don't become our customer today? And then, so that's about long game, and that's what makes a white hat approach different. Like the other thing about Jim in particular is I'm just really a patient person, and I would step into business and I would step into any dialogue today with a lot of patience. Now, so we see dealers who, so this is an important distinction to kind of make as we step into this dialogue today, because some dealers want to really qualify their customers online, and they want to only invite in the customers who meet their criteria, right? That's just in the interest, in their idea, it's in the interest of efficiency. So with me, I'm okay with investing time in customers who won't ultimately buy. And there's various reasons for that, but I think this is about being patient. It's about also recognizing that if I'm a salesperson, just put me in any buy here, pay your dealership here in Utah, and let me just be a salesperson for 2 months, then I recognize that the time that I spend is, there's a whole lot of time that I'm not with a customer, right? And so I have time. And so if I can invest that in winning the customer that I missed today, I can maybe have a chance to win them next week or next month.
And this is not about a be back. This is about, because I mean, a be back you can be all straight lines, and it's like, I'll be, the be back. That's like a 4-letter word in this industry, or kind of, 4-letter phrase, a 4-word phrase.
It's too early for math.
Whatever.
Yeah.
But when you take the time to listen, to care, to work towards a solution. I mean, and that's the thing, is that I a lot of pre-qualifying before people land on the lot. And there's not it's hard to do a face-to-face, let's find a solution
right
on the phone or with AI chat, or or a BDC. It is harder to create that kind of caring and environment where it's like, we're on the same side of the table. Come on in.
Yeah. And you're right. It is about kind of the caring element is really about, I'm going to try. I'm going to be persistent. Like, that's one of the things. If I think about,
Jim gave me notes. There's lots of them. Yeah. There's like 4 pages.
Yeah. I was busy this morning. But when I think about the attitude, so let's talk, before we talk about phrasing, let's talk about the attitude and the approach that, as a salesperson, BDC agent, underwriter, anybody on our team, this is the approach and attitude that I would bring to every customer interaction. Now, do we sometimes get frustrated? Of course. Take a break, come back. Our approach has got to be, on this kind of wavelength, so to speak. So we want to be diplomatic. So what's that even mean? Like, how are we
That's
diplomatic?
Like courteous. That's like being willing to listen. There's just, being diplomatic is to me, it means you're not rushing, and you're like, let's sit at the negotiation table. You can't be diplomatic without negotiating.
Yeah. And you can't be diplomatic if you're unbending. You can't. And also, part of diplomacy for me is choosing the right words or saying nothing at all. Like, if we respond out of frustration, anger, impatience, then that's not really being diplomatic. It's not serving this long-term objective. So again, if every conversation I approach a customer, I'm expecting if I don't win, I'm going to try hard. I'm going to do everything I can reasonably do to help them solve their problem today. And if I don't win the customer today, I'm expecting that I will win them next week when they're ready, next month when they're ready, their friends and family. Like, that's the tone I'm bringing.
And so, when we really try to help them solve the problem of, getting the vehicle that they need with a contract that everyone feels good about, that when you're really putting in that time, that even if they don't purchase, that caring is remembered.
Of course.
And that caring can be like, because that most of our customers, most of their friends are also our customers.
Right.
And so they
Co-workers.
talk.
Yeah.
They talk, and they talk about the bad stuff. But they also will talk about the good stuff, because they're going to talk to each other and about, hey, my car, meh. And it's like, oh, you know what? Go talk to so-and-so or such and such, that they were really, and they might say, well, you didn't get a car. It's like, I know, but I'm working towards it. Or they were really kind, and they helped solve, help me solve a couple of problems or whatever that,
Mhm.
and I've got a plan or whatever it is that but they
Yeah.
do talk.
Yeah. So then
Mhm.
the other elements that I would say in terms of my approach
Mhm.
to every situation, every customer, I'm going to be diplomatic and courteous and
Mhm.
helpful, right?
Mhm.
I want to be empathetic. So that's an easy thing to
Uh-huh.
say, and it's harder for some. And I would say if we got people in our BDC team and our sales team, underwriting team, who aren't very good at practicing empathy for this customer that we serve, there's a difference
Mhm.
between empathy and sympathy. That can be a whole separate podcast. But it's like what I'm really suggesting is we need to be able to we relate to what the customer is dealing with and be willing to step in and try to help solve a problem. Sometimes it can really test our patience because the customer lacks the understanding. They're simply not educated around these things, and they don't understand why they can't do what they did. And when we get to I prepared some questions, and by the way, you can hit me with all the follow-up questions on those you want, but I did prepare some common questions that happen in a chat
Okay.
thread, or
Yeah.
it doesn't matter whether that's on the lot, in the
Or
thread, wherever, right?
Yeah. Now, go ahead.
So let me continue with this. So I want to
Mhm.
be cooperative, right? I want to be flexible. I hope our approach to underwriting and approvals is flexible, because
Mhm.
if we're just going to finance the customers who fit in our rigid box, then that's obviously going to limit our volume. And we're obviously trying to do volume. And as I said in one of our V8 meetings last
Mhm.
month, like, you know what? Volume matters. We got to do volume. We got to create car payments, cash flow. And so volume matters. So I think we just got to, one of the ways we can do that is be cooperative and flexible, right?
Mhm.
Obviously, we said helpful. We want to be respectful. I've already said that's being mindful
Yeah.
of tomorrow. I'm going to be respectful of
Yeah.
the customer, even when they frustrate me, even when they lack the knowledge. I'm going to be respectful. They deserve respect, and they would get nothing less from me. I'm going to be persistent. This is a big one for me because I believe our BDC agents and salespeople, what I look for if I'm hiring in that position, um, and underwriting, I'm going to be a problem solver. I gotta enjoy a puzzle, and I gotta be persistent in finding ways to piece the thing together.
And I mean, I think that sometimes when you are leaving, when you have, one thing you didn't put down here is an open mind.
Yeah, good.
But when you're persistent and you have an open mind, sometimes you can come up with a solution between the two of
Sure.
you, and that you might end up coming up with a solution that is not something you've done before, but it's like, oh, okay, yeah,
Sure.
we can do that. That would work.
Yeah.
So
And in the traditional, if you think about, the phrase I use sometimes is like, when you think about a traditional Foursquare. So for those not familiar, Foursquare would be if I were sitting with you negotiating to buy a car or finance a lawnmower. Like, it's basically all the same components. It's like there's the selling price, there's the down payment, there's the payment amount, and then there's the length of the loan, really. So those four. But you can see that if I increase one, I could lower the other, and it's kind of, you're working within those four boxes.
I just squirrel kind of possum.
Okay.
Possum means it's kind of related. Is understand that a lot of people out there that are our customers don't understand all the language that we use. So
Of
when you
course.
say term,
Right.
it's better to say,
Length of loan.
how long will you be paying this loan?
Sure.
And
Truth
so
is, it almost never comes up. That's really us as the lender dealer,
yeah.
kind of working with in that part of the box, but we can show them. I want to be transparent and help them understand kind of what we're working with. So there are phrases that we can use around that piece too.
We wrote down soft and gray edges, not black and white.
Right.
And that is something that that I don't know, the older I get, the more I understand that there's very little in life that is black and white. Because there are always exceptions.
Sure.
There's always exceptions.
Well, and the more flexible we are, the more true that would be.
Yeah, exactly. So the gray, and last one, listen and inquire. I want to go back to one though. And this is it's around that empathy, and caring, empathy, kindness, that we get so busy with our day to day, and we have to go through all of the things that the check the boxes, do the stuff, all of that we sometimes forget what it feels like, because we're so busy in the other side of this. So what I'm talking about is what it feels like most of us out there that are listening know what it feels like to be pushed in a corner,
Mhm.
how that feels and how you react to that. Most of us know what it feels like to have a financial hiccup
Right.
and the stress that is involved in that.
Hmm.
Most of us know what it feels like to get late fees, or I mean, it just because things happen.
Hmm.
And so leaning in on remembering what how you felt in those
Hmm.
situations, remembering how you may have reacted
Hmm.
um uh in those situations, and then give people the grace to experience those emotions, because it's because like I need a car or
Hmm.
whatever, and the panic or the whatever it is, or
Hmm.
feeling like I don't know what, everyone reacts differently when they're in a corner. Some
Hmm.
people are and other people just they melt, or they'll say yes to anything to get
Hmm.
themselves out of the corner or whatever. But remember what it's felt like in your life. And so, we've had dealers that some of the best stories that I love hearing because when we do like an opening exploratory meeting with them, we'll ask, why did you get into the business? And those that get into the business because they've been where their customers are now at one point or another, it's just like, because it's like, we want to help people.
Hmm.
It's like, we want to help people get through this and not have the experience I did.
Yeah, and I can
Yeah.
say, it doesn't. People don't have to actually have lived a bad credit experience to be able to be empathetic to somebody that's in
True.
that spot. It helps, right?
Mm-hmm.
It helps to make it real, which kind of leads me to think about something I added was the sincerity and authenticity piece. And here's why: you can
Mm-hmm.
say to me you're empathetic, but if I don't hear it in your tone of voice, I don't see it in your
Mm-hmm.
eyes, which obviously this is part of the reason
Yeah.
that chat thread is problematic for me. Like I know that I know, look, I'm not naive. The world is changing, especially our younger generation. They prefer chat. We're obviously going to meet the customer where they are, and we're going to try to
Mm-hmm.
fulfill what they are looking for in the way they want to buy. And I think when we are on a chat thread, everybody knows when you text and when you're in a chat thread, things can get interpreted the wrong way.
Oh my gosh.
So much so. And
Yes.
it's
I
hard
mean,
for me to convey any real,
we've
genuine
all
authenticity.
we've all been in that thing where it's like someone's mad about something and they're like, read this.
Right. Right.
A conversation, read this.
Right.
And it's just because all of their emotion and their story is coming out and how they're interpreting
Yeah.
it. And so yeah, and emojis don't cut it.
Yeah. So, we're quite a ways into this and we haven't even gotten to the
Okay.
actual word tracks
So
yet. But let
let's
me kind of back just cover one quick thing.
mhm.
I think what I want to be able to do is when you hear these responses that I'm going to give
Mhm.
to these frequently asked questions, I want you to recognize that, and you will, in my responses probably, that I'm working to get the customer in the building. I want appointments.
So
Why?
understand that the main objective is getting them in the building. And we can ask dealers, if someone is in the building, what's your close rate?
Yeah,
And if someone, I mean, so it's like, if you can not do any of the pre-qualifying
yeah,
as close as you can prior to
sure,
them landing in the building,
right.
yeah.
Here's the world has changed in a lot of ways.
Hmm.
In a lot of ways, it hasn't changed at all. So I would say I haven't been in dealerships as a manager, supervisor,
It's been a
whatever,
few years.
as a dealer. Yeah, for since 2016, right?
Hmm.
But if I were to be in a dealership tomorrow, the approach would be exactly the
Because
same.
it hasn't changed.
The part that I
Yeah.
would be doing hasn't changed. Okay. So what I'm saying is I want the customer in the building. Why? Because my success rate once they're in the building will be very high. Why? Because I'm flexible. I'm going to work hard to find solutions. Are there going to be some that go away because I can't help them? Sure. I can't change somebody's income. I can't, there's some I just can't help. I won't, not today. Maybe their income changes and I'm able to help them next month. But the reality is I'm going to opt for, and everything you're going to hear in the phrasing that I'm going to choose, I'm going to opt for getting the customer in the building, off a chat thread, off a phone, off the lot. I want them in the building.
Yeah. Oh, there's a whole, those of you who have access to Buy Here, Pay Here Institute. There's a whole sales track on get them off the lot, get them off the lot and in the building, off the lot and in the building. And this kind of goes into that. So let's go to the questions if that's okay. All right. So I'm the customer.
There you go.
And so I need a car, but I have to keep my payments to $350 or less. That's all I've got budgeted. Can you do that?
Okay. Now I want,
or not budgeted. I won't use that word. That's all I can afford.
Okay. As I answer this, I want you to think about that question came. Doesn't matter if it's chat thread, on the telephone.
And those of you that are listening, you've heard this.
Right.
It's like, I only have $250. What can you do for me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the customer says, three. So I think I actually wrote up the questions. Let me put them on the screen so people can know which one we're answering. So this one was, I'm going to keep my payments at $350 or less. So my answer would be of the nature, well, let's see what we can do. I can meet you today. Can you come at 1:15? So I think a key thing that happened there, as I said, very little, which I didn't explain. That's part of also my strategy.
Okay.
I find that when we talk a lot, we end up saying too much, and we need to start to direct the questioning. And so this is about leading or steering the conversation. So this is why I try to always end with a question. And so I said, I can meet you at 1:15.
That's key. Those of you who are listening, is try to end in a question because it continues the conversation.
That's right. The customer feels somewhat obligated
and
to
try
answer
to not,
question.
yeah,
especially when it's a non-threatening question.
Yeah.
And so I'm just going to say,
but I don't want to come in if I know you can't help me.
No, I understand. So we can do online applications or whatever. I can just tell you that most folks qualify. So what are you wanting to learn? Are you wanting to learn whether or not you qualify? If we assume that you qualify, then the truth is we can't really finalize everything until we've chosen a car. You're going to want to drive it, and then we can just try to get the deal finalized. So, it's best if you can come in. So, I've got an appointment right now coming in just a few minutes, but I can meet you after lunch. How's 1:15?
Okay. Yeah.
So you're going to see me do that again and again. I'm just going to try to end the thing with an appointment. I'm going to come back and say, what time's good for you? I'm going to answer any direct questions. But in this case, you can see if you read my answer again, the customer asked me, can you get me in a car for $350 or less? I said, well, let's see what we can do. I didn't say yes or no. Right?
Yes. And you have it in red. And I'm assuming that's because that's like, this is what we hear, but this is probably not the best approach because
let me tell you what else we hear. Very low closing rates.
Yes. Is well, I don't know. Fill out this application and send in your stips.
Yeah.
That's
3 pay stubs,
that's
license,
and then we'll be able to tell you whether or not we can.
Yeah.
And it's
I can't go any further till I have this information.
Yeah.
And so I'm just saying I'm going to still collect that information.
And part of this too, an underlying theme is salespeople will say, I'm too busy.
Okay.
And I have talked to dealers that are like, I don't know what my salespeople are doing.
Yeah.
They're playing TikTok. They're watching YouTube videos. It's like, no, your salespeople have the time, and let me
tell you when a salesperson is too busy. When they're doing so many deals that they can't really follow through with the customers who bought.
Then it's time to get another salesperson, a second one.
Yeah. So but otherwise, so some dealers will say that this is a natural thing that evolves because of just time management and whatever. And people are always striving to be efficient, right? It's not that we're looking to be inefficient here. It's just that they will try to qualify the customer and only bring in the customers who qualify, as I said earlier. So in this case, I'm always looking to tweak the sales process to allow more customers to come farther into the process. Often we call it a sales funnel. If you want to think about like a funnel, I'm working all the time to try to get more customers. Because why? I want the dealer principal to be the ultimate underwriting, chief underwriter, which means I want that dealer making the decisions. Again, back to our small 15 to 30 store sales a month. I want the dealer to make the decision. I don't want the salesperson and the BDC agent sweeping the customers based on, they decide who's approved based on some rigid box that we've got. And we're just missing so much business.
Yeah.
We're missing so many opportunities. You can tell by the number of leads these dealers are, in our V8 thing, they report the number of leads they're seeing. Their closing rates are very low. And so this is part of what I think has to happen. Is we gotta invite people in, and we got to quit asking so dang many questions on the front end. Because when I ask you a question, even I don't care if it's on the thread or if it's in your application, I ask you your job time, and you say, "Oh shoot, I have to be honest, I've only been on my job, 2 months."
Okay. Well, how long have you been in the industry?
So,
Did was there?
You'll get there. Really, the question is, when is the time to ask those questions?
Yes.
And for me, I'll ask them in the building.
And we all kind of know this. It's human nature. It's kind of psychology, is that the further you can get them into the process, the better chance you have of completing it.
Not to mention their own investment, like their own commitment to the process. So now they're engaged. They're counting on getting a car. They're hopeful.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm saying the inadvertent disqualification. When you ask me in a chat thread, hey, how long have you been on your job? Well, why would you even need to know that? Why would you need to know that? Well, because that's apparently qualifying, right? I can run this through in my head as a customer. Why are you asking me about my job time? Well, it's only 2 months, so you're probably not going to be able to help me. So I don't need to bother to call you back, because the other people over here, I'm going to go see them because they said they could help me with 500 down. So I'm going to go see them instead. It's just, my point is, the more we ask, the more questions we ask on the front end, the more we either disqualify or we run the risk of the customer disqualifying themselves and choosing not to move forward. Okay. So I want to know as little as possible. Ignorance is bliss. I'm going to be as green as they come. If I
mean, just to say, you guys, Jim was really successful in his dealership and management, and
as a salesperson,
salesperson before that. And many, the places where he's had a dealer that he was not the dealer principal, they're like, I don't know how you do it. I mean, you're spending so much time, but you've got the best, you've got the best, the least hot, or what do they call, heat cases or rewinds, because people understood all of the stuff. So
I had so little of that. Like, in my entire career as a salesperson, sales manager, had so few customers come back unhappy on Monday, that buyer's remorse thing. Why? Because we're stuffing customers in a box. Can we sell them and we get a commission? But if the customer's back on Monday unhappy and giving us bad reviews, and
I mean, part of that is that you listen and you develop a rapport. And so it's like, as a customer, it's like, we already talked about all of the stuff, and you've gone through. Should we move on to FAQ 2?
Yes, sure.
Okay. So can you get me into a car for $500 or less? All I got is $500.
Okay. Well, let's see what we can do. What time's good for you? I've got an appointment now, but if I could meet you just after lunch. What I'm trying to do is give the impression that I'm like the dentist's office. I have bookings, I have certain slots, and I'm trying to give the customer the impression. Why? Because I think when they perceive that, they'll be more likely to show up. So I'm going to say, well, let's see what we can do. Come on in. Let's figure it out. How about 1:15? And I'm going to say almost nothing. I'm going to ask for the appointment. Now, I'm not going to be surprised to get a follow-up question, right? Because often they don't agree right away to come see me. But so you might have a follow-up question. If you ask that question, can you think of something that you might?
Well, it's like, I was told no, that someone wanted $1,500. I don't have $1,500. So
no, I get it. And everybody's program can be a little bit different. Here's what I can tell you. We just try to always operate on the idea around here that if there's anybody in the area that can do it, whatever it is, if anybody can do it, it's us. So I say, come on in, let's figure it out. And often the customer will persist. Well, what about this? What about this? I had a bankruptcy 2 years ago, whatever. They may start kind of doing follow-up questions. And I will typically, at some point in the process, often it becomes necessary to tell the customer, well, unfortunately, I can't really say for sure. Like, this is where I'm kind of trying to stay in the gray. I can't really say for sure until we've got you here and got a full application and we've chosen a car.
So if they're like sweeping themselves, disqualifying themselves, would you suggest that you just say, "Oh, we've been able to make deals work for
My
these
phrasing
things."
usually
So
on that is something like, "Oh, I've seen that happen."
yeah, yeah.
Under what conditions? Under what
Uh-huh.
what time can you be here?
Yeah, I've seen that happen. I've seen that deal. I've seen
Yeah,
that work out.
crazier things have
Yeah,
happened. What
crazier
time's
things.
good for you?
Yeah, yep, yep,
Right?
yeah.
I'm staying general. The less I know, the better, because now I can't have the customer upset with me saying, "I
And
told you I only had 2 months on the job."
and in the red, you're like, "I don't know, because can you get me into a car for $500 down? I don't know. Send your application and your steps." I
Mhm.
also have seen and heard um salespeople, BDC, it's like, we don't accept anything under X,
Mhm.
or,
Right.
yeah. And so it's like, if you don't have at least this much down,
Mhm.
then we're not going to be
Have a
able to
good
help
day.
you. Have a good day.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, one of the things that Jim's always talking about is you'd be amazed at what can be procure what
Procured.
procure I can't yeah, it's
I'm
one of
just
those
trying to help
words
you out. I
can't
don't know where you're going, but
what can be pulled together
yeah, yeah.
to make it work.
Yeah.
And so
But I
eh,
say my chances of doing that, accomplishing that, are
uh-huh,
best done in the building. Why? Because now I've established a little bit of rapport with the customer through my sincerity and authenticity. They know that I'm really working. I really want to help them solve their problem.
uh-huh,
And so I'm continuing to work, and they now trust in me to do what's possible to
mhm,
try to help figure this out. So I think the less I know about down payment, like, again, this is kind of going back to
mhm,
fundamentals. If
mhm,
I'm not going to be asking for steps and apps and everything else. If I'm the dealer or the salesperson, I'm going to bring the dealer, deals every day. Hey, I'm working with Mary Jones. She's got 800 down today. She can do this. She's got a free and clear trade,
mhm,
blah, 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 blah. And I'm just trying. And I'm just
mhm,
trying, and the dealer may say no, the underwriters may say no, but my job as a salesperson, BDC agent, underwriter, is to try to find a way to make the deal. So this is what happens. I think we know the dealers want to do the deal,
mhm.
but when you're in these chairs and you're not the dealer, do you still, yeah, we got pay plans and people work their pay plans, and we hope a commission structure is incentivize people. But what I'm really saying is I would be bringing a dealer's mentality, and I would be bringing more committed buyers to the desk of the underwriter dealer,
Mhm.
and they may say no, but the customer's going to know I've tried.
Yeah.
And tomorrow, if this person, we don't get to help them today, if this customer is chatting with a coworker tomorrow at lunch, you better believe they're going to say, "Go see Jim down at so and so,"
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Because what they're going to
'Cause they
see,
will talk about it. That's
right?
that our customers do talk about their
Yeah.
experience, the good and the bad.
Are they going to say, "Go see those people who ask you to send in a web application"? I don't think so. It's still
Yeah.
a human thing. And our colleague Crystal Aguayo and Luis, they talk about the emotional element of the purchase.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's got financial parameters. Like, it can be, I can engage with the customer emotionally, and I can get them. I can work to help try to solve the problem. But if the company won't do financing for a customer with less than X amount of income, then I may not be able to get there, emotion or not, right? So
Mhm.
we still have a financial box that we work within, and
Mhm.
I have to make that happen. But because I got this whack-a-mole game, and then maybe I can make up a little bit more on down payment, or maybe I can stretch the term a little bit,
Mhm.
or I'm just thinking like a problem solver, and I'm thinking like a dealer, and I'm just trying to make something happen and help this customer out and win them because back to the 10-year approach. I know as a dealer, if I can win this customer, they may be with me for 10 years, referring friends and family, sometimes 20 and 30 years.
And we
So
all
I'm
know how valuable it is to have a happy
sure.
customer
Hmm.
who is willing to refer friends and
Sure.
family. Let's go to number 3.
Okay.
What's the lowest down payment you have?
Yeah, that's a good question. It happens a lot that people ask that. I can tell you that we suggest a down payment of about 10% of the selling price, but it's important to know that it can be done sometimes for less than that. We would want to get you in here and select a vehicle and just see what we can figure out. But unfortunately, I'm going to be with a customer for the next little bit. Can I meet you after lunch? How's 1:15?
Mm-hmm. I like what you said too on this is to offer, if they're like, well, I don't have a lot down, it's solutions. It's
Mhm.
creating solutions. We've got our friends at Coffee Guys, solutionaries,
Mhm.
coming up with solutions. And so it's like, do you have a trade in?
Mhm.
Do you have and
Right.
so like be thinking about that when you come. So we'll see you at 1:15.
Yeah.
Will that work for you kind of
Yeah.
thing? But
I'm
be
gonna
thinking about
ask
those
I'm
things
going to
too.
ask as little as I can get away with. I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
talk as little as I
Mm-hmm.
can get away with. I'm going to inquire, and I'm going to be kind of back to the shoot, I'm forgetting his name. The Ted Lasso.
Oh yeah.
Curious, not
Curious, not
judgmental.
judgmental.
So I'm
Yeah.
just curious. I'm
Yeah.
curious all day long. I'm just going to ask a question,
Yep.
inquire. But I'm mostly going to inquire, ask a question. I'm gonna get an answer, but my main question is, what time's good for you?
Yeah.
When can you be here?
Yeah.
And I'm just gonna stay after that. Why? Because I know my attitude needs to be, I believe I can solve your problem when you come in.
Uh-huh.
And the less I know, the better. I mean that. So I'm gonna have more turn downs than maybe the other salespeople, but I'm also going to have more sales and happy customers because I'm persistent. I'm working the deals. I found solutions, and ultimately the dealer underwriter's got to say yes or no. But my job is to just get buyers who are committed to do business in front of them, and they can make the yes or no decision. So this is part of what we try to do.
The last one, you didn't have it written as an FAQ, but it's like, my credit's not good right now.
Yeah.
Do you work with bad credit? And it's like,
we work
absolutely
every day. We work with people in all kinds of credit
Yep.
circumstances. And this is a part of a business approach that some would adopt and others wouldn't. Throughout my career, was dealership I owned or those that I managed, the phrasing was often of the nature of, look, if we can't help you with financing today, it won't be because of your past credit. Okay. That's a pretty strong phrase.
It is. It won't be because of your past credit.
Right.
And I know that there's words, because without telling customers, we will based on your current credit, but not your past credit.
That was kind of the out for me. With some dealers, they can't say we won't, because I don't want you to say it if you don't mean it. So I don't want our BDC agents to say we would never turn you down based on past credit, and then 2 hours later they're getting turned down because of past repo. Right?
Yeah.
That doesn't work. You got to be genuine. You got to be honest and sincere in what you're doing. So I don't want to misrepresent what we do, and I want to say as little as possible, and I want to get the customer in the building. And so this is kind of what you're referring to, is like when I can say, we work with folks in all kinds of credit circumstances every day. And when we pride ourselves in being flexible, and we believe if anybody can help, it's us. What time's good for you? Right. It's just get off the phone, get off the chat thread. Let's get an appointment and figure it out when you get here.
Yeah. And you never know. I mean, someone who is trying to be responsible does a voluntary repo, and it doesn't show up as a voluntary, it just shows up as a repo. I mean, that's because it's like, I can't afford this right now.
Good
and
point.
So I have to repo. Wouldn't you appreciate a customer like that? And so it's like just having some black and white, yes, no. It's like, find out what you can about the circumstances that you're looking at. And we deal with we deal with dealers all the time that it's like, if they have more than one repo, no. Or if they have, and it's let's figure out what the circumstances, because there are circumstances. And I know that a dealer is we hear a song and dance and story, and it's like, yes, you are. Yes, you will.
Sure.
And part of the process that we teach is, pull that credit report and use it as a barometer to truth telling.
Right.
And so that just like, it's like, what was the circumstance? How did how many dealers do we hear right now? The car got wrecked. What does that become? It becomes on their credit, a repo.
Right.
But the car got wrecked, and I got to get in a car, and they're not going to help me. And
listen, the stories. So I think the real thing here is does the story matter, Mr. Dealer? Like if it's your business and you're willing to overlook past credit mistakes, which is the nature of our business. So I'm a dealer. If I want to be a dealer for a minute, then I'm going to say the story matters. I want to hear the credit story. If I see that, there's a past repo on the history, then I want to have a chance to have a conversation about it. I don't want to just say, well, I can't help them. They got a past repo. Well, I need to be able to find out what the story is. So this kind of gets into a whole different track that we probably ought to save for a different conversation, because I personally, if it were my own dealership today, I would certainly be working with at least a supplemental application. I've recommended this to lots of dealers. Not everybody adopts it, but I like an interview. I think an interview is helpful. I want to know more about the customer, their credit circumstances, kind of their background, kind of what's been happening with them. Because, our dealer friend in Pennsylvania, Tommy Brandis, talks about, wants to know if the customer's spinning up or spinning down. I kind of want to know their story. I want to know what's happening with them.
Yeah. And
right?
that's his underwriting.
Yeah.
Most of it is, are they spinning up or are they spinning down?
So,
are they,
if you ask me about a past repo and I come in, that's one of two stories. I'm going to come in, I'm going to tell you, I had a repo with the dealership across town. They, they wouldn't honor the warranty or whatever. It was as is, and they wouldn't help me. And so I just told them to stick it and I left the car, on their lot. Okay. That's one story. Another story is, I was a co-signer on that car for my son. And unfortunately he wrecked the car and the insurance had lapsed. And so, I wasn't aware, but, and he went to jail and I'm paying $200 a month, but it does show as a repo on my credit. Very different stories. Right. And so I don't,
and there's a myriad of others that they're like, okay.
And so the dealer gets to decide, but I would just want to know the story. I don't want to trust the check boxes on the, and look, again, when you get to be a certain size, you transition to that place, but I think we pay a price for that because we can't get, into the weeds and have the conversation, really know the customer that we're stepping into a business relationship.
You can't do that when you are doing online applications and online steps. And that's like, yes, no, that's your yes, no, that's your deciding factor. It's, obviously if that's a practice and it's like, yes, then it's a yes. If it's that and it's a no, it's like, invite them in, because there may be a lot more that you don't know that was not on the application or the story behind what's happening on their credit or whatever. Yeah.
So I have to pause for a moment and do a quick disclaimer. Jim and Michelle Rhoads are not attorneys. They are podcasters and coaches on the Buy Here, Pay Here Morning Show. We don't offer legal advice. I bring that up because there's a lot of compliance stuff in play here, right?
Yeah.
And so we're certainly not advocating for anything that would violate compliance. Everything that I'm advocating for here is in the context of trying to help the customer, which is what I believe the CFPB wants us to do. I think they want us to help more customers. So I'm simply saying, let's certainly be, cooperate with compliance.
I'm gonna channel Steve Levine for a second.
Okay,
here.
let's try that.
And from conversations we've had is, you have your written policy and then you have your book of exceptions. And when exceptions become frequent, it becomes new policy.
Right.
And that's how you keep ahead of people saying, well, did you hear and why did you not hear? It's like, keep documentation about exceptions. And then when it becomes frequent, it needs to become the new rule.
Right. And so I would hope that means an expanding policy that can serve more people, because I think, again, it's back to volume. I'm trying to help more people. I'm trying to, obviously I got to protect my business. I'm taking a tremendous amount of risk here and I got to make good business decisions. So we got to do that. And I want to do more business. So it means I got to adjust my underwriting. I got to keep an eye on what's happening. I got to see what's working. And I hope I am expanding my underwriting at least, every other time, and maybe adjustments in both directions. But I'm just simply saying, when we bring an approach, we want to try to help. And I really mean that thing that I say about, I believe if anybody can help, it's me. Like I'm bringing that sort of mindset to work every day. And so I'm not giving up, and I don't want to just, here, I'll shoot you a stip link and then stuff comes in, and now you get a score, and I'm done. You know,
Mhm.
unfortunately, you didn't meet our score, so I'm sorry, I can't help you, and I'm going to drop you and go focus on the others.
Mhm.
So that's where we're missing opportunities.
Yeah.
Those applicants who don't initially meet the box, if they don't fit black and white, we tend to move on. And I'm just saying, you know, when we recognize that the nature of what we do is way more gray than black
Yeah.
and white, and so we gotta get comfortable in the gray.
It
We gotta work the
is.
gray
It
areas.
really, really is. You know, it's a blessing to people out there that we don't work in black and
Sure.
white,
Yeah.
because they've already exhausted all of their options that are black
Yeah.
and white.
Yeah.
And so sometimes we are the last option.
Yeah.
And so it's, we work in gray a lot differently than
For
a
sure.
bank or whatever would.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody, thanks so much for joining us this Wednesday. If you'd like a copy of the stuff, like I said, it's a few pages of all the different things that
Just
Jim
don't
wrote
follow it
down.
word for word.
Don't follow word for word. But to give your team ideas, to do some training, whatever, just reach out to us and we'd be happy to send you a copy of it.
Sure.
It's not trademarked or any of that. So it's just
Email me
ideas.
at Jim at White Hat Way. Let me
Email you at Jim at White Hat Way. Hey, again, thanks everybody for joining us. We'll be back on Friday. And it's a good week. It's cold. It's clear. It's ready to go.
Yep.
So have a great
Wednesday.
rest of your day, and we will see you in a couple of days.